So, George, what kind of auxiliary lifts do you use to build up your pull?
There's a few in specific that I rarely see people doing. And when I was younger, all I used to do was research. That's it. That's all I did all the time. Of course, you get to a certain point where you stop researching.
There's no reason. Now you got to do shit.
There's nothing new.
Right.
There's nothing at all new, and you have to go to the top lifters just to find out the new shit. And literally, like, you can only talk to people to find out stuff. T Nation isn't gonna cut it. You know what I mean? Like, all these lifting articles, they're not new. But I do. There was a famous Finnish deadlifter who would squat with his deadlift stance, and I improved on that. I started doing deadlift stance box squats with a low bar position, and that made me extremely strong off the floor. Like, it just completely mimics your leg drive off the floor. So you know how people start with their hips high? You know, like their hips shoot up and they do that shit?
Right.
Where do you use the floor?
So you squat that way?
To a box.
Yeah.
And it's exactly mimicking leg drive off the floor. So what happens is you get real strong that way, all of a sudden you're strong with your hips lower, all of a sudden the entire lift is easier because you're more upright. So I do those that help me immensely off the floor. I do Romanian deadlifts, which there's many ways of doing them, right? I mean, some people keep their legs straight, all kinds of crap. I do them exactly like a deadlift, but I stop right here. And I usually don't lock out. So I'm just training the knee movement right here.
Okay.
So people who are real weak
around
their
knees. So you're like 12 inches.
Yeah. People who are real weak around their knees, they get stuck right here because it's furthest from their body. You know, their leverage strength and shit. It gets them very strong right there. Now lockout would be two things. If it's your upper back, you know, some people can't get their shoulders back. I do Yates rows. You're familiar with Yates rows?
Yes.
Basically, I do a kind of a different variation. I stop about here and I use a little bit of lower back to get the weight up. And basically, it's very similar to a deadlift with the grip and stance and stuff, but you get all that shoulder. Yeah. So I mean, like that's the part where people fail. They can't get their shoulders back. It's this that's doing it, right? So I do Yates rows, which is basically just that. It also builds a shit ton of strength right around here. Because once you get the bar to here, all the Yates rows, getting that explosive strength right there, makes you very strong right around
What kind
your
of volume or reps and sets do you use on those?
I'm a big believer in very low volume on the real heavy shit. I do one set of deadlifts, I do one set of deadlift stance box squats, I do one set of Romanian deadlifts, and then I might do a few sets of rows and shit like that. And I also do, basically always do back extensions, like with the little whatever thing that you kind of lean forwards on. And I always do leg curls or glute ham raises. And
very few exercises. I mean, you could probably name them all on.
They're the best.
Two hands. It never takes two. Like all the strongest guys I've spoken to, they don't do a lot of exercises. Like I remember Tom Mitchell used to say, if you want to get better at this, like if let's say it was stones or flipping tire, he's like, then just lift the stone more. Instead of doing a whole lot of auxiliary exercises. And I think there were a handful. He was like rows, squats, and that was like basically it, rows and squats. Everything else, just do the thing you're trying to get stronger at more times.
I try and pick an exercise for every part of the lift.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if some people have a problem getting their hips through at the top on deadlifts, so I do back extensions. I squeeze my ass real hard at the top to get my hips through. So basically, from the floor up, I got deadlift stance box squats, then Romanian deadlifts, then Yates rows, then back extensions. Works the entire lift. And for posterior chain, I just deadlift for reps.
Yeah.
I never do singles.
Right.
I do singles after I'm done peaking all the way up, and then I stop. There's like a few low rep workouts, and then that would make me stronger. They're just literally seeing how strong I am. People think you have to train low reps to be strong. It's not true at all.
Right.
Because you can get stronger on high reps.
Yeah,
Who's to say you're not stronger, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I improved my set of 10, so my max didn't move at all. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Especially if you peak it up to your max over time, which is all I ever do. I always start like 675 maybe, and then over the weeks I peak up, making like 50-pound jumps, and pretty soon I'm at this. So, what I really like to do is ideally, I start with as little weight as possible on deadlifts while still being able to get strong. So my first workout might be off the deficit, and I might be using 585. The second workout might be off the deficit using 635. Sooner or later, the deficit becomes kind of hard. You know what I mean? I'm down to like...
Right, so using less weight because you're at a mechanical disadvantage.
Right. And then I go to the floor once the reps get to like, 7 or 5 or something. And then I do a few workouts from the floor, and pretty soon I'm at a max. So I try and get people to use as little weight as possible while still gaining strength, and then peak for as long as possible.
That's a cool idea.